there's never really been a voice for the people that live and work in our business districts, I'll say it that way. And so I think that that's good. So just briefly about my parking plan and about the city's issues here is that, I think that there is definitely a philosophical question to be raised, and then I answered it one way, and I think that some of you have different answers to that same question, and is who should pay for parking? And who should pay for the infrastructure, the maintenance, the liability, the lighting, the repairs, the graffiti removal? Who should pay for that? And after many, many years of neglect in our parking lots and our parking infrastructure, no one was, because the city can only raise taxes so much before we tax people out of their homes, before we tax people out of their apartments, before we tax the businesses out of town. And so they stopped raising taxes because of issues like parking, and they only covered the core essential services: police, fire, Department of Public Works. Those were what were paid for first. Anything else was left over as extras. And if we got a little bit of work done, great, but if we didn't get that routine maintenance done, it's no big deal. And so after 20 years of that, you end up with lots that look like the ones up here, and the Sea Deli lot in Midtown, or the lot on Prince Street, or the Dock Street lot, or some of the lots that we have had in the city for 25 years, and no finger was raised because there was no way to pay for it. And so what my philosophy was is that, at some point, we need to change the financing system of our on and off street parking lots, and that it needs to be a user-based system. People that live on 3rd Avenue in downtown Kingston, a senior who doesn't drive anymore, I personally don't think should have to pay more in her taxes at her home because the uptown parking lot needs to be repaved, when she may not even venture out of her house anymore. And so I think that this system does charge the user. There's no question about it. It's a user fee-based system, which is a really hard change to make. To be able to go from a tax-based system to a user fee-based system is really tough. And no one else has ever tried to do it because it's not the politically correct thing to do, because you lose votes over it, people get upset at you about it. But sometimes it's those hard choices that you just have to make.
In 2017, we will continue to build a stronger tax base. After a competitive public process and interviewing extremely qualified applicants, I am pleased to announce that we will be working with a local architect, Andrew Wright, of Wright Architects, to develop the old parking garage site in Uptown Kingston.
We've got a fine day in Uptown Kingston. I want to just thank Don and Judy Tallerman for opening up this beautiful space for us. The Senate Garage has been such a great addition to our Uptown community, and the number of events that are held here and the number of people that are brought to Uptown Kingston because of this event space is truly remarkable. And either of them will be happy to tell you about the dozens and dozens and dozens of weddings alone that they book each year. Just imagine the type of economic impact that's having with people coming, many for the first time to Uptown Kingston. It is just truly remarkable. And so thank you both for your commitment and dedication to Kingston.
I'm really excited to just introduce you to a few of the people that I believe are going to play a critical role in the future here in Uptown Kingston.
Those kinds of issues you must face if we're going to have a true renaissance and make sure that everyone can participate in it. We need to hit tipping points.
That we're going to be having a team working together to develop a project that we believe will meet the needs of the community, to be able to be a community-oriented development, one where we start the process like this, instead of handing you a project that's already completed, where we can go ahead and create a true community dialogue about what we all hope is, as the county executive mentioned, a transformative project here in Uptown Kingston.
We're here to build something that's going to work, not just for us, but for all of Kingston and for really Ulster County as well.
We need the community's buy-in. I think we have it on the parking, because we all know that we need more parking in Uptown Kingston, but we want to continue to have conversations both in large settings and small settings with individuals that know best what Kingston needs, and that's the people that live and work here. And so we're excited that today will mark the beginning of that conversation. We're going to then continue to work with that information and develop concepts and drawings that, again, we'll be sharing with you and the rest of the community in the coming weeks. But one piece that it's also extremely important for us to recognize is that we can't do this alone. And I'm very lucky, again, to have a partner in the county executive to be able to work together, to be able to find the funding that we're going to need to have this project come to fruition. Because a project of this size, building public parking of this size and quantity, is going to take everybody chipping in, and that includes New York State. And so we're hopeful that New York State will be able to help provide us support for this project, because I think without their support, we may not be able to get it done. And the same thing goes with the county and the city, all playing an important role together to be able to put the pieces in place that we need.
How cool is this, right? I am pleased to inform you today that you are a first place winner. First. Congratulations. I want that shirt though.
You know, and I've been told that for every minute that this speech goes on, I'm actually going to lose $1 million.
Do you have a young, educated workforce? Because I need a young, educated workforce. It is a new city with a new attitude and a new trajectory. It's a totally changed place. It can be done. You are doing it. Evidentiary note. Young friend of mine, millennial, was in California, an artist, calls me up, I'm moving back to New York. Where are you going? Kingston. I said, really? She said, yeah, I've been there. It's very cool.
This investment that the governor has made has really brought our community together. And while many of you participated in meeting after meeting after meeting, today is the payoff. We were able to use the governor's model of listening to the ground level, listening to the grassroots, listening to what was important in our community, and by that, we built a plan. And we built a pretty darn good plan.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come out on this rainy evening. And again, sorry for all the traffic. And if you had any problems parking, I promise we're going to try to help solve that this evening.
The target market for this building, empty nesters and young professionals, is the same target market we're looking for the residential units of the Kingstonian project. Business owners now move their businesses to where the talent is located. So whether they're highly educated, that's another way of saying talented workers. They want to live in cool places and they want to do cool things. And Uptown is already pretty cool. But I think if you have some more quality housing and we have some more things for people to do. We'll attract even more people here, which will get more businesses going and improve the businesses that are here now. By bringing 250 or so more consumers that are going to live right there, right at the end of the street, will help the uptown businesses that exist now, and will help hopefully fill some of these storefronts that they see that are still empty, that are being held back by whatever reason, whether it's parking or needing that extra nudge.
So my question is, I saw quickly on the slide about maintaining affordable housing at market rate. So I was just wondering what market rate is for a lot of those, if there's a percentage that will be kind of set aside to make sure that folks that, I think the median rent right now in Ulster County is like just over $1,000. So you were wondering how that compares and how you're going to maintain affordability for folks.
Sure. So we're looking into this issue. Now, basically, when we say market rent, there's not what we would consider an affordable percentage of the building, but we hope to keep rents as low as we can and still make the project work. The problems that we're trying to solve with this project were, number one, parking. It wasn't affordable housing. So we have to take the rents from we have to take what's left over. So when you build an apartment, you receive rent, you have to pay the operating expenses, you have to pay the mortgage, you have to pay all the other costs. And what's left over goes to help pay for the parking garage. So for this project, the goal isn't to keep the rents as low as possible because we need to pay for the parking infrastructure.
Negotiate a payment-in-lieu-of-taxes, and if the latter,
Yep.
what are the terms?
So we still have to work out the terms. We will be working on a payment-in-lieu-of-tax agreement, but I can't speak to the terms yet because we still have a lot to do with the county, with the school district, and with the city. But in order to pay for this garage, during the period of time that we're paying for the garage, capital expenditure, there will be a payment in lieu of taxes. When the garage is paid for, we won't need a payment in lieu of taxes anymore. In other words, if this project didn't have the parking garage piece, then we would not need a payment in lieu of taxes. But because we're trying to pay for this parking garage, we have to come at it from a bunch of different angles. And one of them is the leftover rent. One of them is some of the grant money that we can use for the underground infrastructure. Another is going to be the payment in lieu of taxes. But I don't have the terms to talk about today. Having meetings like this with lots of different community members so we can understand their concerns. When Seeker goes horrible is when you have someone come in, probably from out of town, who doesn't care and only wants to do what they want to do, and they don't want to listen to anybody else. And they say, this is it, it's my way or the highway, and they hit a wall.
What is the protocol for putting things on the agenda?
That will be discussed later in the discussion of the reorganization of the committee under the auspices of the planning board. Agendas are supposed to be prepared through the department that is managing the commission. And that is what is going to be discussed later, what that protocol will be, and how items get added and how they get posted to the website so you are in compliance with the open meetings law.
So
Which up until this
the
point
meeting
you
law
haven't.
does not discuss agendas and responsibility of setting the agenda. Furthermore, this was discussed at a public meeting in February. It's reflected in the meeting minutes. And it was requested specifically that those items be added to the agenda. I would request that, the commissions, that be honored for future agendas going forward.
There comes a point in time in a city's life when you can take a look back at a specific event that changed the course of that city and put it on a path of revitalization. We saw it happen in Newburgh with the waterfront. We saw it happen in Hudson. DIA was the catalyst for Beacon's revitalization. And here in uptown Kingston, the Kingstonian could be that catalyst for Kingston. A proposed $52 million mixed-use development project in the urban center of uptown Kingston on the corner of Fair Street and North Front Street.
The City of Kingston put out an RFQ and asked for developers to bring economic development and parking to uptown. And we are really excited to propose our project that is going to it's going to more than double the amount of parking that's available to uptown Kingston businesses and residents and visitors right now. We don't feel that our rents are that much above the market right now, although we do know that they're on the higher end for the amenities they're providing, for the quality of construction that we're doing. The realtors that we've talked to believe that these rents are appropriate.
If approved, the Kingstonian project could be the ace that puts Kingston on the map of destinations for visitors near and far.
It's an important part of the process. The public needs to be able to be heard.
To feel included in
the process. But we need supporters as well.
Yeah.
All too often, good projects get stopped because the naysayers come out in force.
Who are always a fractional minority.
But loud.
A vocal minority.
I would argue that some officials have occupied their desks for far too long to the detriment of our changing city. This commission is the backbone of historic preservation in Kingston. This is why it is so incredibly important that this citizen body maintain an independent voice in city government. You are not here to carry out the mayor's agenda, nor are you to be distracted with a speaker box in uptown. Your legislative intent is to promote and protect Kingston's landmarks and historic districts, and for the education, pleasure, and general welfare of our community today and tomorrow. Please keep your focus on that. Thank you for your service. It was an honor to serve with you.
My name is Don Tollerman. I live at 104 Fair Street in Kingston. and I'm here to speak in favor of the zoning change. I think that this project should have the support of everybody in Kingston who wants to see a bright and vibrant future. I think this is part of our economic renaissance. Affordable housing is absolutely critical and should be a part of every future development. But in this case, because of the building of the garage and the maintaining of the garage, the developer could not possibly be able to deliver a parking garage without having a pilot. So I don't think that affordable housing needs to be required for this project.
I also happen to be on the DRI local planning committee, where we learned about the project, especially the walkway and its relevance to the city. When I joined the DRI committee, it seemed like that project had already been chosen, though many of us had questions about exactly how and why, and we didn't have a lot of light shed on what that process was. We did have a lot of questions about it. I'm not sure our questions were fully absorbed, however, and I'm hearing through others' comments that similar questions are arising, so I wanted to agree with many of them and point some out. One thing that was disappointing about being on the DRI was this process and the fact that we felt like our voices really weren't heard and our questions weren't taken seriously.
We are not reserving any more spaces for units themselves. In other words, the 129 spaces that were going to be numbered will still become 129 numbered. We foresee this building, as we've talked about before, as a model for sustainability because of its walkability. So we can see the need for people moving into this building to not have as many cars as they would if they lived somewhere else, because you have direct access to almost everything you need between the grocery store, doctors, pharmacy, eating establishments. You have your recreational within the building and in Uptown Kingston. Bus service, exactly. You can get anywhere you want to go in anything you need without getting in a car. So I think that by design, our residents are not going to need as many cars as they would if they lived in a different building in Kingston. And so while adding units could use up some of that additional public parking, it won't be reserved. And the way we see the parking turning over, people that are coming here during the day will be presumably taking up the spaces from the residents that left during the day if they so choose to rent a space just like anybody else. And when that resident returns at night, maybe that's a different spaces available and they go park there. We can't build enough parking for every resident to have every space they want, plus anyone in Kingston who shows up to have their own dedicated space as well. The parking spaces have to be turned over and used.
The numbers with regard to parking and the representations by the developer has been quite confusing. So going back to the parking, it would be really wonderful to clarify very specifically what the requirements are for the proposed development on the parking garage, so that we know exactly how many spaces are required under the code and how many spaces will then be left that could be considered to be used for municipal parking. And
how much of a variance we're
and that would determine if there's any variance required with regard to parking. So those numbers, I would just love them to stop moving around and be hard and fast based on our code.
Well, one of the reasons we made the comment in the past was in a public-private partnership, when you have this discussion, putting everything on the table in terms of what the public is being asked to participate in to fund your garage, is something I think is something that we thought was worthwhile relative to the overall discussion of the project. It seemed to cause some consternation, but the question to you is now that we know that there is, in point of fact, a pilot here because the neg deck mentions it, we still don't have any numbers.
It's odd probably for a mayor to be standing in front of you as part of a pilot application.
If you deny the project, there's no way for us to move forward. This is a true but-for. Without a pilot, this project is we're stopped. There's no possible way forward, and I will show you the numbers in a minute. Public benefits is $30,900,000, which shows a negative, meaning this project at the end of the day, after the 25 years, will cost us an additional $1.9 million above and beyond.
I guess the question is, Joe, why? Why?
Why do it?
Why do it? If it's going to cost you that kind of money, why?
Because this doesn't show you the revenue from the parts. So that's what we talked about in the meeting that we had in the pre-screening, and that's the stuff that I think is a little bit more confidential.
So you're
Sure.
proposing 420 spaces,
Yes.
of which 65% will be open to the public for use. 277 out of 420.
Correct. If we reserved one space per apartment, then that would leave the 277. Yes.
And so, I guess the question I have is, because we're framing this as being a big parking issue in Kingston, which it is, and we had 300 spaces before this was demolished, the other prior parking spot. Do we know actually how many parking spaces are actually needed in Kingston right now, based on estimates to support business and future business in the city?
I don't know a number.
Yes, this is Alderwoman Hirsch. I'm concerned about the guarantee of the 277 spaces. I had asked what the actual I'm sorry, the variance that was submitted to the ZBA, if that's been done yet, and if that's been approved, the variance on the parking spots.
The variance on the parking spots has not been approved yet.
And what is the actual number of the variance that you're asking for?
I don't remember the parking variance count. While I don't know the parking variance amount exactly, what I can say to speak to parking in general is that we operate a building very similar to this in the city of Poughkeepsie right now. It's called the Water Club. We have 1.3 spaces per unit, and the unit mix there is very similar, mostly 1s and 2 bedrooms with a few 3 bedrooms. We have extra parking with that 1.3 unit mix. And even though it's across the street from Vassar Hospital, it's not nearly in as walkable a location as we see here at the Kingstonian. We are providing 420 spaces as part of this project. So by reserving one dedicated space per unit, I think we're almost there, right at that number. Regarding residents that may have a second car or may not have a car at all, but if they have a second car, there's options. They could lease a space just like anyone else as part of the public for the monthly parking pass, or they could park across the street in the plaza parking lot and then come across the ADA compliant bridge.
My name is Tim Rogers. I've served as the Village of New Paltz's mayor for going on 6 years. Previously, I served on our town's planning board and New Paltz's Board of Education. I've been outspokenly against pilots since 2013, when our Board of Education adopted a resolution opposing pilots. In 2014, our planning board voted against a for-profit housing project because of its pilot. Subsequently, the developer of that project sued our town. Fortunately, the judge sided with New Paltz and agreed with our planning board's finding statement. The statement described how pilots are harmful because taxing authorities, including school districts, end up with less money to serve new students. It's just how pilots and New York State's tax cap formula work. But as mayor of the Village of New Paltz, I'm here to express objection to the proposed pilot for the Kingstonian. Last week, our village board adopted a position statement about pilots that's available on our website. It explains how all 23 Ulster County towns and villages and the city of Kingston are part of a collective that shares the sales tax our municipalities collect countywide. Costs for things like fire trucks, stormwater infrastructure, and snow plowing that aren't paid for with sales tax, we all know too well, are primarily funded with expensive local property taxes. Forfeiting property tax revenue via a pilot means more reliance on sales tax revenue. In New Paltz, we have consistently stated that we support progressive, redistributive county policies to increase the sales tax share for all municipalities across the county. The existing county sales tax agreement is currently unfair and inequitable. Having served on planning board and now as mayor, I have seen claims from developers who rationalize requests for pilots because they believe their project will generate new revenue that will trickle down. Far too many times, pitches from developers use assumptions and vague information touting quote-unquote public benefits. Then these public benefits do not offset the forfeited property tax revenue. I'm proud to compare New Paltz's 46-unit net zero apartment complex called Zero Place that's being constructed as we speak. It will actually have a bit more retail space than the Kingstonian, and like the Kingstonian's proposal, it will offer public restrooms maintained by the developer and a public pocket park. Net Zero will also have 5 affordable housing units that have to be memorialized with deed restrictions filed with the county clerk per our local village law. Numerous bike racks will be included, direct connections to the Walkill Valley Rail Trail and Empire State Trail will also exist, and 20 charging stations for electric vehicles and e-bikes will be at the complex's location. Recreation fees from Zero Place were also largely responsible for helping New Paltz build our new $250,000 playground that our community came together and constructed last fall. But unlike the Kingstonian, Zero Place's various public benefits come without having to give away a pilot, mortgage tax exemption, or sales tax exemptions for construction materials. And that's the few-minute long version for why we object to padding a developer's profit margins at the expense of the rest of the county. And it's why we are calling on the City of Kingston, the County Legislature, and the Kingston City School District to just say no to the pilot for the Kingstonian. Thanks very much for listening.
Hi, my name is Lynn Eckert, and I know a lot about city politics. I'm a former city council member and a former Ulster County Legislator. I'm here to talk about the Kingstonian pilot, and I want to tell you that the Kingstonian pilot is a bad deal for Kingston. We simply don't have the numbers to determine if it's a good deal. All of the justifications offered in favor of the pilot have shifted as soon as they've been revealed as empty, including the notion that the Kingstonian will provide sufficient and permanent affordable housing. The affordable housing offered follows no state guidelines to understand the unit's starting rate, their size, and annual escalator rate. Why? Because it's a private development. Without that information clearly established, the Kingstonian project affordable units could become market rate at any time with no repercussions. Furthermore, we now face a deficit of parking spaces based on our zoning code in Uptown. Independent of all of these substantive concerns just mentioned, we have these wealthy real estate developers asking for a free pass on school taxes, a public good that everyone should be committed to paying. And that's true for all community taxes, including police and fire. Finally, the politics surrounding the Kingstonian have lacked transparency and fairness. That should raise a red flag for all of us. If you want more information, visit kingstoncitizens.org and tell your legislators to vote no on the Kingstonian pilot.
Good evening. Shalom, salam alaikum, peace and joy. I am not here to pick a fight with our officials. I am fighting against a broken system that, in my opinion, has never been correct in the first place, unless you were colorless. This pandemic and wildfires has pushed millions to the brink of a new housing crisis, affecting our community and our country. The government support phase as we face significant housing dislocation and displacement on top of gentrification. Yet we stand here today to talk about a $30 million tax break for millionaires and billionaires. Housing is a human right. It is a basic need to every human being in this world. We should be building a community where everyone can thrive and live and grow, including the poorest of our poor to our rich. We are living in a moment where we can make a change. We can be the example that we, the people of Ulster County, welcome and believe that we can drive together in a diverse community for our grandchildren and our great-grands to come. Housing is not a commodity. Housing is a human basic right. The rich and powerful moved into our backyard and have bullied their way, influencing organizations by means of money and promises that their way is the best for us. But you all forgot to read the fine print. Poor people are not welcome in this community. Mike Hines and Governor Como and Mike Hines' office put out a Do Business Differently in Ulster County campaign, which led to 210 evictions between 2018 to 2019, and the worst of the worst landlords, E&M management, to move in and crap on our community. You, our legislators, have been given a task to yay or nay this project. If promised, if it passes, that only 14 units for low income and a parking spot and some scholarship funds of a project of 143 units will be going to low income families. A project, even if you made $70,000 a year, could not afford to live there. But I guess the free parking will be a good idea for all the homeless people we're about to have in Ulster County. Our village is becoming a city like Brooklyn. And if you think that your taxes are not going to go up, don't be fooled. Because they're all lying to you, because your taxes will go up. Your school taxes will be doubled what you pay now if you give them a break. What I say to you is this. 14 units will not even house the families in Darmstadt or in our domestic shelters, or thousands that are about to be homeless due to COVID-19. This project will not help us unless it's your goal to change the historic land of Kingston and remove all those whose class is not to your standing. If you wish to take a stand, stand for justice, for those who voted for you, not only those big donors, but those who believed in you and voted for you to do the right thing. Do the right for our future, not profit over people, but people over profit. Then give the $30 million tax breaks to those who need it. And yes, I'm saying this, to the landlords whose tenants have been affected by COVID-19, and forgive all the rent that is owed from March 2020 to February of 2021, so families can get back up on their feet and landlords can pay their taxes. To homeowners whose mortgages need to be paid. This will help the essential workers that you all depended on to stock your shelves with food and toilet paper. Healthcare workers who put their lives on their line each and every day for when you go in and say, I can't breathe due to COVID or police brutality. My murdered son, Daniel David Gonzalez, had a saying, be your best is to do your best. And when you do your best, you are your best. And if you can look in the mirror and say that your yay or your nay is your best, then okay. Then you did your best. But us, the Kingston Tenants Union, will take a stand and fight back against any injustice here in Ulster County.
Buenas noches y paz y alegría. No estoy aquí para pelear con nuestros oficiales. Estoy luchando contra un sistema rota que, en mi opinión, nunca fue correcto en el primer lugar, a menos de que fuera una persona de privilegio. Esta pandemia encendió forestales, han llevado a millones al borde de una nueva crisis de vivienda. Y faquís comunidad de personas de color y familias de bajos ingresos en este país y nuestra comunidad. El apoyo del gobierno se desvanece a medida que nos enfrentamos a una importante descolación y desplazamiento de viviendas y además de la gentrificación. Sin embargo, estamos aquí hoy para hablar sobre una excepción fiscal de $30 millones y millonarios y multimillonarios. La vivienda es un derecho humano, es una necesidad básica para todo ser humano en este mundo. Deberíamos estar construyendo una comunidad donde todos pueden prosperar y crecer, incluyendo lo más pobre de los pobres y nuestros ricos. Estamos viviendo en un momento en que podemos hacer un cambio para ser un ejemplo de que la gente del condado de Ulster damos la bienvenida y creamos que podemos prosperar juntos en una comunidad diversa para nuestros nietos y nuestros bisabuelos por venir. La vivienda no es una mercancía, la vivienda es un derecho humano básico. Los ricos y los poderosos se mudaron a nuestros patios trasero y se han abierto camino influyendo a las organizaciones por medio del dinero y prometen que su camino es el mejor para nosotros, pero se olvidaron de leer la letra fina. Pobre no es bienvenido. Gentrificación es de 2018 con la ayuda de Mike Hines y su oficina y el gobernador Cuomo haga negocios diferentemente en el condado de Ulster. Campaña que condujo al desarrollo de 210 y en el año de 218 a 2019 y al peor propietario E&M Management para mudarse aquí y mierda en nuestra comunidad. A los legisladores se les han encomendado a traer de no si esta rebaja de impuestos de $30 millones con una promesa si se aprueba. Solo 14 unidades para bajos ingresos y estacionamientos, fondo de becas, un proyecto de 143 unidades donde una unidad cuesta al mes $1,900. Un proyecto que aunque ganarías $60,000 al año no podría permitirte vivir allí, pero supongo que el estacionamiento gratuito será bueno para todos los sin hogar que estamos a punto de abrazar. Si puedes pagar el seguro de un automóvil cuando te conviertes en una ciudad y llego en un pueblo, obtienes los precios de la ciudad y no engañemos a nadie. Lo que les digo es que estas 14 unidades ni siquiera albergarían a todas las familias de Darmstadt o en nuestros refugios domésticos o las 1000 a punto de estar sin hogar debido a la COVID-19. Este proyecto no nos ayudará a menos que su objetivo sea cambiar la tierra histórica de Kingston y eliminar a todos aquellos a quienes el clasismo no está de su posición. Si desea tomar una posición, defienda la justicia por los que votaron por ti, no solo por los grandes donantes, sino por las que votaron por ti porque creyeron en ti. Hacer lo correcto para nuestro futuro. No ganancias sobre las personas, sino gente sobre la ganancia. Llegó. Conceda la desgravación física de $30 millones a quienes las necesitan. Y si estoy diciendo esto, los propietarios cuyos inquilinos se han visto afectados por la COVID-19 y perdonen todo el alquiler que se adeuda desde marzo de 2020 hasta febrero de 2021. Por lo tanto, las familias pueden recuperarse. Las propiedades de viviendas cuyas hipotecas deben pagarse. Esto ayudará a los trabajadores esenciales de los que todos ustedes dependen para abastecer sus estantes con comida y papel higiénico. Trabajadores de la salud que ponen sus vidas en la línea para mantenerse con vida cuando dice no puedo respirar debido a la cobertura y o a la brutalidad policial. Mi hijo asesino Daniel David González tenía un dicho: ser lo mejor que puedas es hacer lo mejor que puedas, y cuando haces lo mejor eres el mejor. Si puedes mirarse en un espejo y decir soy el mejor, hiciste lo correcto para el futuro de cada vida en el condado de Ulster.
Hi, my name is Larissa Shaughnessy, and I'm a lifelong Kingston resident. I was brought up through the Kingston City public school system, and I want to talk about why I oppose a deviated 25-year pilot for the Kingstonian project. In my opinion, this proposed development is much more representative of a privately owned, publicly subsidized luxury playground than it is of a public-private partnership investment in our community. This project is on a site that the New York State Historic Preservation Office has identified as archaeologically sensitive. The Kingston Historic Preservation Committee has identified the project's potential to affect the topography and architectural resources and the sense of place and visual context of the historic Uptown Kingston Stockade District. The project presents further concerns about its domineering of a public street that is heavily trafficked by cars and pedestrians to access necessary amenities in the plaza, including Hannaford Supermarket, Walgreens Pharmacy, and the bus stop. The potential for extensive construction to disturb or otherwise jeopardize surrounding historic structures is another concern, and so is the structure's viability. The project site is a former marshland that has been confirmed by the developers to have a consistency akin to toothpaste, less than 50 feet beneath the surface. The 3-story parking garage that was last there had to be demolished. These are risks and repercussions that do not seem to be in the best interest of the existing Kingston community. In 2016, the Kingston Council adopted a comprehensive plan, which stated that the city should consider expanding the number of projects that must provide a fair share of affordable housing. And while fair share is not defined in this context by that plan, it is worth considering that the 10% affordable workforce housing out of 143 residential units in the Kingstonian does not meet that requirement. The mixed-use overlay districts in Kingston are meant to apply to adaptive reuse projects that will contain at least 5 residential units, 20% of which must be affordable, and to encourage mixed-income neighborhoods. The Kingstonian is asking the community for funding via tax abatements, and we should be asking them at the very minimum for an adequate supply of affordable housing. This pilot amounts to a tax break of $30.6 million, more than half of which will fall on the Kingston City School District, amounting to $18 million of lost school tax revenue. Many municipalities outside of the city of Kingston, including the town of Kingston, the town of Ulster, Port Ewan, Hurley, Eddyville, Ulster Park, Lake Katrine, and other municipalities will absorb more of this than the city of Kingston itself. There are no properties in Kingston or the surrounding municipalities comparable to this development. But the hotel and housing developments of similar size demonstrate the absurdity of the owner's proposed annual tax contribution to the Kingston City School District. The Dutch Village on Washington Avenue in Kingston, an apartment complex of 139 units less than half a mile from the Kingstonian site, paid over $227,000 in school taxes in 2018. Stony Run on Hurley Ave in Kingston, another residential complex that has 122 units, paid over $233,000. The Kingston Motel Corporation, which are the owners of the Best Western on Washington Avenue, right across from the Dutch Village apartment complex, paid over $339,000. Under their requested deviated pilot agreement, the Kingstonian would pay $20,000 annually on 143 residential units and 32 hotel units over 25 years. Personally, I believe we need investment that is going to support all of the children in our community and their future more than we need a parking garage. And for that reason, among others, I do not support a deviated 25-year pilot for the Kingstonian development.
Hi, my name is Duval Culpepper. I am a local comedian and author of the book How to Manage Your Girlfriend's White Guilt. What, you thought I was going to do this and not plug my book? Come on. Look, let's just get to the heart of the matter here. I'm not an expert on finance or tax breaks, but I am able to sort of scrutinize things very expertly, given my job as a stand-up comedian where I stand in front of people who don't want to hear from me and berate them about what I think about the world around us. Look, the Kingstonian claims to be a downtown revitalization initiative project. Guys, pick an adjective, just one. Also, it's uptown, not downtown, which is dubious in and of itself. Look, I'm not anti-development, I'm not anti-capitalism, I'm not even inherently anti-gentrification. I just think it's about how you change a neighborhood. And the way you change a neighborhood where everyone can benefit from it. Look at the Upper West Side in New York City, okay? In the 70s, the Upper West Side was a hellhole now, for different reasons. It's gone back to a hellhole. But it had a good run for about 30 years. The Upper West Side, up until around the time that I was in high school and college and until recently, it took its time changing. And it was a community that changed at a pace that everyone was able to keep up with. The problem with modern gentrification is that it happens so quickly and so rapidly that the only people who can survive its onslaught are the hyper-rich and those who are insulated from the problems of the world around us. So when you create these citadels, these monolithic silos of gentrification like the Kingstonian appears to want to be, that's when other people suffer. And I think that's the question we have to ask ourselves here. This isn't about whether or not development should happen in Kingston. This isn't about whether or not the city of Kingston can choose to fund projects that might help it long term. It's about vetting projects and making sure we choose the right ones that will have a long-term positive impact, not just for the few who can afford it, but for everyone who has lived here, whether it be for 5 years or for 5 generations. So even looking at this, they describe it as a mixed-use development project in the up-and-coming urban center of Uptown Kingston. It will bring together retail and restaurant space, living space, and hotel partnership. Also, in partnership with the City of Kingston, the project will address a dire lack of public parking that has emerged as an impediment to the area's development. Is that the impediment to the area's development, or is that what's keeping Uptown Kingston a place you want to go? Come on, look, I'm not a hippie, but I grew up in New York City, but I know that song, "They pay paradise to put up a parking lot." That's what you guys are doing. So, are we going to just create another box for rich people? Or are we going to take a $30 million tax break and figure out other ways to truly invest in Kingston and its people to make it a long-term, profitable enterprise? You know, because again, I'm not anti-money. And even from a purely capitalist point of view for these developers, wouldn't it make a lot more sense to figure out how to create a longer time horizon than something that no one's going to want to live in 10 years because there'll be no one here anymore? Like, come on, this is basic economy. I actually failed econ. But I was really good at talking a lot in classes, I'm sure you could tell. Look, guys, again, I'm no finance expert, I'm no policy expert, but you don't need to be in order to see that the Kingstonian moving forward in its current form, it is only going to be a benefit to a handful of people and anyone who can support it. And I get it. There are people who have been in Kingston for a long time, longer than I have. There are locals who have been here for generations, and they just see dollar signs and they think that's a good thing. And I understand that. But I would challenge them to really consider what kind of future they want for their city. One where they just get a fat paycheck or they get bought out, basically. You know, you want some hotshot from Brooklyn by way of Ohio to pay you twice your asking price for your house in cash, and then you get to go where? Another small, nice city somewhere in America until this happens again? Look, there's no running. That's the point. You know, gentrification in housing is becoming musical chairs where we think, we can just keep scurrying around while the rich decide where they want to live for a little while until they get bored, and the rest of us sit around trying to find a way to survive. So, I don't know, guys. I think we can do better. To the city of Kingston, call me. And to the developers, if you do get that tax break, I am a copywriter. So if you need any, I'm kidding. I don't want to work for you monsters. But again, let's do better. Do it differently. We don't need one Kingstonian. We don't need, Castle Dracula? That's not what it's called. I have a tension headache. This has upset me enough. Do something else with the money. Hi, buy my book. Goodbye.
under God,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice.
justice for all. All right, be seated. Madam Clerk?
Okay, roll call. Archer.
Here.
Bartels.
Here.
Bruno.
Here.
Cahill.
Here.
Corcoran.
Here.
Criswell.
Here.
DeLon.
Here.
Donaldson.
Here.
Fabiano. Gaveris.
Present.
Green.
Here.
Haynes.
Here.
Hepner.
Here.
Litz.
Here.
Lopez.
Here.
Mayo.
Here.
Parity.
Here.
Petit.
Here.
Roberts. Frank.
Present.
Uchatel.
Here.
Walter.
Here.
And Warrow.
Here.
22 present and 1 absent. Tonight's public hearing is on application for U.S. Department of Housing and Community Development Block Grant Funds administered by the New York State Office of Community Renewal, and this is in relation to PK30 Systems, Inc. And we do have one caller. I'm sorry, Alex, there's no chance of me getting that last name right. So, Alex, can you say your name for the record, please?
Alex Panagiotopoulos.
Okay. You're all set. We can hear you.
Yeah, I just wanted to call in and say that using federal funding for housing is really important. Ulster County has the highest, fastest rising real estate prices in the entire country right now. I think that issues like this with housing need to have a much higher priority. We also have the most Airbnb activity of any county in upstate New York by triple. And on top of that, I know it's on the agenda tonight, but vote no on the Kingstonian pilot. I think that's a really bad idea. I yield my time.
There are no other speakers signed up for the hearing.
Alrighty, then I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting, the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded by Bruno. All those in favor?
Wait, don't adjourn. Don't take that vote yet. I got it. We have, you didn't take that vote, right? We have one more speaker who was just added in the last second. That was Jess Mullen. And I want to confirm, Jess Mullen, 1, that you can hear us, and 2, that you're here to speak on the public hearing. Hello, Jess, can you hear us? Nope. Okay, we dropped her. Never mind then. Go ahead.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All righty. And Al Bruno did it with his finger rather than unmuting himself, so we'll accept the finger as the second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, very good. Adjourned. We don't have to call roll call again, right? We're just going to go right into the meeting then, correct?
Correct.
Alrighty. Well, I'd like to recognize a couple birthdays. We have legislative employee Nettie Tomshaw, September 24th, and Ken Rock, September 26th. Very good. Have you reached 30 yet, Ken?
It never gets old, Dave. It's been 14 years. It never gets old.
Well, I can't help it. All righty. entertain a motion to dispense with the readings of the minutes and meeting of the previous meeting.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. There's various communications on file. Take your time to take a look at reading through some of those, along with committee reports. And now we can open up for public comment. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
We can. We have lots of calls in there, and it appears that most of them want to speak about items that are not on the agenda. There's 51 calls in there. I do want to check one because I see that Supervisor Baden is on the line, and there's a chance that could be about an agenda item, so we're going to try to get him on. So just give us a second with that.
John, are you growing a beard or is that your mask?
The Lone Ranger. In case I have to run in the kitchen real quick, I don't want to run into the wrong people out there.
Very good.
Take a large pepperoni to
Juan
go.
only has 10 more calls of the 51 left to screen, and so far they were all for the Kingstonian. So just proper planning for next month, whether it's in person or online, looks like it'll be quite a long meeting.
Hey, Dave. Amanda Joe has her hand up.
Yeah, madam.
I think Supervisor Baden is not, is speaking about a relevant issue. Are we still going to be able to hear from him?
Yes.
Fawn is we can tell Fawn's on the phone with him right now, and it looks like he's been moved up so that he can speak.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Baden, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Excuse me. Thank you very much to the legislature. I am here again this month representing the Ulster County Association of Town Supervisors and Mayors. And I am here to speak on Resolution 298. It is our understanding, meaning the supervisors and mayors understanding, that an amendment to this resolution will be presented tonight. We would like to extend our support for this amendment and to also thank the county executive and the mayor of Kingston, Mayor Noble, and County Executive Ryan for hearing our request and for working out an agreement between them on this amendment. So thank you very much, and thank you for the legislature. That's all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Supervisor.
Let's just give her a couple more minutes because she's still going through all these calls. We can tell.
Why don't you dance first, Dave?
They used to call me Dancing Dave, so maybe I should.
I remember that.
I am a witness to that myself.
The old soft shoe.
Just rumors, right, Dave? Just rumors.
Rumors, yep.
Taking my glasses off. I don't know if I want to see this.
You ever seen so many politicians in a room and it's so quiet?
Enjoy it. It doesn't happen very often.
Herbie.
This never happens when we're physically in chambers.
Yeah. Maybe next month.
Maybe next month. We keep on putting it off a month. It does help that I try to put everybody on mute, by the way.
You can go. It's not going to happen.
John, of course.
How's that?
I said you're not on mute, so your conversation with everybody else is showing up.
That's my granddaughter right here cheering us on.
There you go.
This is Victoria.
Hello there, Victoria.
Mr. Legislator?
Aw, which one is that, Craig? Brandon or Aaron?
Oh. That's Aaron. Yeah.
That's Aaron.
Brandon is he's buzzing around here.
Hi, Aaron.
It's bedtime, long day.
Oh.
All I have is a cat.
That's Aaron.
When I was back, I've been doing the online learning with my 5-year-old granddaughter and my 7-year-old grandson. And I can tell you, I'd rather stick needles in my eyes.
Well, not to mention it's a whole different curriculum.
But it's not that. It's just that, you know, we could run a meeting. These you have the kindergarten teacher attempting to basically run a meeting with a bunch of kindergarten kids and their parents. So the parents keep on talking when the teacher's talking, and it's just like a total nightmare. I get to the point where I'm actually, my wife and I were going to do it together, but I did it by myself on Wednesday, and she did it Thursday. And I thought it might be better that we do it apart because you can't have two people that aggravated in the same house.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want to maybe even recess this. I'm not even sure that we will have another speaker. She's down to 9 people. And so far, everyone has been for the Kingstonian. So it's up to you. We can give it more time for her to get through it, or we can come back if there's another speaker.
Well, we can come back if there's another speaker, I guess. Do we have, I'm not sure what you meant by that. Go ahead, Legislator Bartels.
I'll make a motion to recess the public hearing.
All right.
Just as a point of order, can I understand what policy is being enforced that folks aren't able to speak tonight?
We've been speaking, since we've been doing this, we've been speaking on items that are on the agenda. Many legislative bodies do that. If it's not on the agenda, then it's not something we're considering in this evening.
I second Legislator Bartel's motion.
All right. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, so we'll postpone that, but we'll come back once we get the thing straightened out, and we can start looking at some of the agenda items. Are we ready for that? Madam Clerk?
Yep, we're all set to go into consent.
All right, Leader Ronk and Eckert, are there any additions or subtractions to the consent?
Yes, Chairman, I'll move 317 from non-consent to consent.
317, okay. You second that, Legislator Rock?
I'll second that.
Okay, Legislator Lynn seconded. Alrighty, all those in favor, do we have a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Normally the leaders would do it, but Legislator Rock is out of the room at this moment.
The resolutions are adopted 21-0.
Well, that actually just okayed the moving that one item in there. So we didn't actually vote on the consent agenda as amended.
Right.
Okay.
So we have to vote on the consent agenda as amended.
On the consent agenda as amended, or a short yes.
Now Legislator Rock, he's back in the room. Go ahead.
Yes, I apologize.
No problem.
The resolutions are adopted 22-0. We can deal with that.
Are the speakers ready to roll yet?
No, she's still going through the list. We have another one added, but she's still going.
Are the other 9? Can they speak, or they're going to speak on what's on our agenda, or?
Well, that's what Fawn has to speak to every one of them to find out what they're calling for, but it's recessed right now. So if we're going to do it, we kind of have to open it back up, and she's not done with all the screening all the calls.
Oh.
Okay.
I feel obligated to state for the record that we've many times, look, I realize it's a lot of calls and I don't like being out late personally, but we've many times heard people speak about topics not on the agenda in the past.
So since we've done this, since we've done meetings by Zoom, we've advertised every meeting as such, that it'll only be restricted to agenda items.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it becomes a nightmare dealing with the call-ins in that manner. That's why we try to keep it to the agenda. Many legislative bodies across the state do the actual thing, even on with regular meetings, they keep it to the agenda. I think Dutchess County does. Many counties do it that way. We've always had it open for everybody, but we changed that for while we're doing these virtual meetings.
She's down to 3 calls. If you just want to wait, because one of the callers is speaking on a resolution you're about to vote.
Well, that's what my concern was. I would like to hear them on something. So why don't we let that voter that we can I could open up the public comment again.
I think Vicky's right. I think we should wait until everyone's done and then
continue.
She's only got 2 more. She's only got 2 more to screen. And from the notes, I see the caller is speaking on an item on the agenda that's postponed.
But that's all right. But it's on the agenda. Just
Yeah, no one would know that if they didn't go to Ways and Means.
Well, Dave, you're no longer in contention for the shortest legislative session.
This close.
No, what was the shortest one?
It was like 17 minutes or something like that.
Would have been a contender.
Well, we've been more quiet than speaking at this one.
Are we ready, Madam Clerk? I see you shaking your head.
She's still screening, but we can start if you want, because by the time we get going, she'll be done.
Vicky, why can't we hear the one that is,
Well, that's what we're gonna do.
then the
That's what
screening
it's-
process will be over?
Exactly.
Legislator Bartels,
Make a motion to reopen the public hearing.
I'll second that.
alrighty, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearing reopened. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
The next speaker we have signed up for public comment is Mr. Tom Cajun. Can
Good
you hear
evening.
us?
My name's Tom. Can you
Yep,
hear me?
go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, my name's Tom Cajun, a resident of Shokan, and I do not belong to a political party. I'm speaking tonight about Resolution 299, authorizing the use of the Tax Stabilization Fund. Since the pandemic, the executives started up a number of projects that weren't essential, created new positions, and handed out raises, all the while being fully aware that the revenue from taxes was plunging. I'd like to see the legislature insist that the executives stop funding these projects, pull back those raises, and furlough those new positions before providing him access to the stabilization fund and approving his upcoming budget. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom. As a point of information, it was postponed in Ways and Means, just so you know.
Story of my life.
No problem, Tom. Thank you. Next speaker. Madam Clerk.
No, she's screening the last one right now, and we'll know soon if it's somebody who needs to speak. It's the last one. We're all gonna have to thank Fawn. It ended up being 61 call-ins.
Wow. Great job, Fawn.
Oh, one just came, 62 call-ins.
Better job, Fawn.
The most we ever had that I remember besides UPAC was for Legislator Petit's cat spay law. We had 62 speakers, I think. So we're there.
That was the same night as the fire training center in Marbletown.
Can I just ask the clerk, just while we're waiting, to just, for folks that might be listening in who we're hoping to speak tonight, where they can find the agenda for next month's session, when they can find it, so they can know what's going to be covered and come back if it's relevant for them?
Absolutely. We have the agenda posted online. Unfortunately, we can't post until Laws and Rules meets, which is the night before. So the night before each session. So the morning of session, you can go online and find it right off of our webpage. If anybody has problems, they can call us and we can help them. Also, with this particular hot item, we've also made sure to communicate with anybody who's called the office that we anticipate this topic coming up in October. We're pretty certain. We've let everybody know that.
Thank you, clerk. I appreciate it.
Our website being ulstercountyny.gov/legislature.
Right. They could also take a look at what, before it's actually posted, any of the resolutions that are being considered that month are most likely either going to be on the agenda or postponed. Even before Laws and Rules meets. The Whistler's mother.
Or father.
That was for the soft shoe.
Madam Clerk, are we ready?
I think we should be good to go. And I also want to remind anybody who's live streaming us that at any point in time, they can send us their written, anyone can send in their written comments, and I forward that just as fast as I get it to every legislator. So I think we can move on.
All righty, let's get back to the non-consent agenda.
The first item in non-consent is Resolution 298, authorizing the chair of the Ulster County Legislature to execute an extension of the sales tax agreement with the city of Kingston.
All righty, so thanks to Eve and Brian, we have had a change in this. I'd like to call on Legislator Petit for an amendment to the agreement, which is not a change in the resolution technically, but an amendment to the agreement. Go ahead.
Right. This is a motion to the agreement. It's after input from the town supervisors and with the support of the mayor. County Executive Ryan asked me to put forward an amendment on the sales tax agreement. The language was developed with the assistance of Supervisor Shannon Harris and Supervisor Jim Quigley. The amendment will allow for the city and the county to reevaluate the agreement if a threshold of the 2020 budgeted sales tax amount is exceeded at any point during the 5-year agreement. So it's an addition of paragraph 4. For any sales tax period covered under this agreement, should the gross sales tax collected by Ulster County during a tax year exceed the high water mark of $128,561,331, that's in the 2020 budgeted revenue, the County of Ulster and the City of Kingston agree to meet no later than May 1st of the following year to discuss the allocation of the amount in excess of $128,561,331 to consider increasing the allocation of the excess to the town.